There is a moment in life when you realize something quietly powerful. Life itself hasn't become easier. You have. Most people believe life is hard because it's unfair, unpredictable, or cruel. But that belief slowly exhausts them. They fight reality. They resist what already is, and without realizing it, they turn every challenge into a personal battle. Here is a truth that changes everything once you see it clearly. Life doesn't become easier when the world changes. Life becomes easier when you understand how it works. Think about how often you feel overwhelmed, not because something terrible is happening, but because things are not happening the way you expected. A delay, a rejection, a misunderstanding, a moment that didn't go according to plan. The pain doesn't come from the event itself, till it comes from the silent argument you have with reality. The voice that says, "This shouldn't be happening." The tension of wanting control over things that were never yours to control. Once you understand this law of life, that inner resistance begins to soften. You stop wasting energy fighting what already exists. And that is when everything starts to feel lighter. This audiobook is not about positive thinking. It's not about pretending life is easy or ignoring pain. It's about learning how to move through life without carrying unnecessary weight. You will begin to notice something subtle but profound. The strongest people are not the ones who avoid struggle. They are the ones who no longer argue with reality. They accept what is. Then they act with clarity. When you stop demanding life to be different, you gain freedom. When you stop trying to control outcomes, your mind becomes calmer. When you take responsibility instead of complaining, your power returns. This is the law most people never learn. They spend years exhausting themselves emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Not because life is too hard, but because they are moving against its current. In the next chapters, you'll explore this law from different angles. You'll see how acceptance creates strength, not weakness. Why discomfort is not your enemy. How letting go of expectations makes decisions easier. And how mastering your inner world quietly transforms everything on the outside. This is not a lecture. This is a reminder, a calm voice in a loud world. A moment to slow down, breathe, and see life more clearly than before. If you've been feeling tired for no clear reason, if you've been carrying stress you can't quite explain, if you've been doing your best but still feeling heavy inside, this message is for you. You don't need to fix your entire life today. You don't need all the answers right now. You only need understanding, because once understanding arrives, ease follows naturally. And if this intro resonates with you, if it feels like something you needed to hear, please share this video with a friend you know who might be struggling quietly. Someone who needs clarity, calm, and a new way to look at life so they can truly begin to improve their life. Chapter 1. The Law of Acceptance. What you resist persists. Most people believe acceptance means weakness. They hear the word and imagine surrender, passivity, or giving up. They think that if they accept a situation, they are saying it is acceptable. That belief keeps them locked in a constant internal fight. And that fight is where most of their suffering begins. Acceptance is not approval. It is clarity. Life does not ask for your permission before it unfolds. Events happen, people act, circumstances shift. When your mind refuses to acknowledge what is already true, tension forms. You may not see it, but you feel it. In your chest, in your jaw, in the way your thoughts loop at night. Resistance is not loud. It is exhausting. There is a simple law at work here. What you resist persists. When you resist reality, you give it more attention. When you fight an emotion, it grows stronger. When you deny a truth, it controls you from the shadows. Resistance does not eliminate pain, it multiplies it. Think about anger. The moment you tell yourself you should not feel angry, the anger tightens its grip. Think about fear. The more you try to push it away, the louder it becomes. This is not a flaw in your character. It is how the mind works. Energy follows attention, and resistance is a form of attention. Acceptance begins when you stop arguing with facts. A fact is what is happening right now, not what you wish were happening, not what should have happened, just what is. The moment you see reality clearly, without judgment, something shifts. The internal noise quiets, your breathing slows, you regain the ability to choose your next move. This is why acceptance is strength. It gives you back control. When you accept a situation, you are no longer wasting energy denying it. That energy becomes available for action. Clear action, effective action, action that changes outcomes instead of emotions. Consider someone who has failed. If they refuse to accept the failure, they relive it endlessly. They blame, they replay conversations, they imagine different endings. Nothing changes, but the pain stays alive. Acceptance does not mean liking the failure. It means acknowledging it fully. Only then can learning begin. The same is true in relationships. When you resist who someone is, you suffer twice. Once because of their behavior, and again because of your expectation that they should be different. Acceptance does not mean staying in harmful situations. It means seeing the person clearly, without fantasy. From that clarity, boundaries become easier to set. Resistance traps you in reaction. Acceptance moves you into response. Reaction is automatic, emotional, fast. It comes from frustration with what is. Response is intentional, calm, grounded. It comes from understanding reality as it is. The difference between the two is the difference between being controlled by life and moving with it. Many people fear acceptance because they think it will make them complacent. In truth, resistance is what keeps them stuck. When you stop resisting, you stop leaking energy. You stop fighting invisible battles, and progress becomes quieter, but faster. Acceptance also applies to yourself. When you resist your own emotions, you create inner conflict. When you reject parts of yourself, so you fragment your attention. Growth does not come from self-attack. It comes from self-honesty. You can acknowledge weakness without becoming it. You can accept where you are without deciding to stay there. The law is simple, but not easy. Acceptance requires courage. It asks you to face reality without filters, to drop the story, to stop pretending. But once you do, life stops pushing back so hard. You begin to feel less tense, not because problems disappear, but because you are no longer fighting the truth of them. Your mind clears, your decisions sharpen, and for the first time, change feels possible without force. This is where ease begins. Not in comfort, but in alignment. Acceptance does not remove responsibility. It clarifies it. Once you see a situation as it truly is, excuses lose their grip. You stop asking why this happened to you and start asking what you will do next. This shift is subtle, but it changes your posture toward life. You stand upright instead of bracing for impact. Notice how often resistance shows up as mental noise. Endless questions with no answers. Replayed conversations, imaginary arguments. These loops feel productive, but they are not. They are attempts to control the past or predict the future. Acceptance brings your attention back to the present, where influence still exists. This law also explains why some people seem calm in chaos. They are not emotionally numb. They are not resisting the moment. They acknowledge stress without feeding it. They acknowledge uncertainty without collapsing under it. Their calm is not a personality trait. It is a practiced relationship with reality. You can practice acceptance in small moments, when plans change, when progress feels slow, when discomfort appears. Instead of tightening, you loosen your grip. You name what is happening without judgment. You allow the feeling to exist without trying to fix it immediately. This pause is where power returns. Over time, acceptance becomes a habit, and habits shape identity. You become someone who does not panic at friction, someone who does not argue with facts, someone who moves forward without dragging resentment behind them. This is why life feels easier, not because it becomes gentle, but because you become aligned. The weight you carried was never the situation itself. It was resistance. When you accept what is, you stop wasting strength. When you stop resisting, life stops dragging you. And that is the power behind this law. Chapter 2. You control meaning, not events. There is another law that quietly shapes how heavy or how light your life feels. You do not control what happens to you, but you always control what it means to you. Most people never learn this. They assume emotions are caused by events. A loss causes sadness. A criticism causes anger. A delay causes frustration. This belief feels logical, but it gives away your power. Because if events control your emotions, then your inner state will always belong to the outside world. Events are neutral. Meaning is not. Two people can experience the same situation and walk away with completely different emotional outcomes. One sees failure and collapses. The other sees feedback and adapts. One hears rejection and feels unworthy. The other hears information and adjusts direction. The event is identical. The meaning is not. Meaning is the real source of emotional weight. Your mind is constantly interpreting. It labels, it judges, it tells stories. Most of this happens automatically, below conscious awareness. You don't feel the interpretation forming. You only feel the emotion that follows, and because the emotion feels immediate, you assume the event caused it. But the gap between event and emotion is meaning. Once you see this clearly, something important changes. You stop feeling like life is happening to you. You begin to see that life is happening, and you are responding to it through interpretation. That realization alone creates space, and space is where choice lives. This does not mean you deny reality or suppress emotion. It means you slow down enough to notice the story you're telling yourself. Because that story determines the emotional cost you pay. Consider a mistake. If the meaning you assign is, "I'm incompetent," the emotion will be shame. If the meaning is, "I missed something," the emotion may be disappointment, but also motivation. The pain level changes dramatically, not because the mistake changed, but because the meaning did. This is why some people seem resilient. They are not immune to difficulty. They are skilled at interpretation. They don't personalize what is impersonal. They don't globalize what is temporary. They don't turn moments into identities. When something goes wrong, most minds rush to conclusions. This always happens. I knew I wasn't good enough. Nothing ever works out. These interpretations feel true in the moment, but they are not facts. They are habits of meaning, and habits can be retrained. The moment you question meaning, emotional intensity drops, not instantly, but noticeably. You move from reaction to observation. Instead of being inside the emotion, you are looking at it. That distance restores balance. This is where emotional control begins, not by forcing calm, but by adjusting interpretation. You cannot control the weather of life, but you can control how much meaning you attach to each storm. Some storms matter, some do not. The problem is that most people treat everything as significant. Every comment, every delay, every small friction. Over time, this constant significance becomes exhausting. Life feels heavy when everything feels personal. Learning to regulate meaning is learning to regulate energy. When you stop inflating events with unnecessary stories, your mind becomes quieter. Decisions become simpler. You stop wasting emotional strength on things that do not deserve it. This law also applies to success. Praise, validation, recognition. If you assign meaning that your worth depends on these things, you become anxious. You chase, you compare, you lose stability. But if success is interpreted as feedback, not identity, you remain grounded, you grow without becoming dependent. Meaning cuts both ways. The most peaceful people are not the ones with the fewest problems. They are the ones who interpret wisely. They don't dramatize setbacks. They don't over-identify with wins. They stay centered because their sense of self is not at the mercy of circumstance. This does not make them passive. It makes them precise. Precision comes from seeing clearly. When meaning is exaggerated, perception is distorted. You see threats where there are none, and you feel pressure where patience is required. You rush when stillness would serve you better. All of this comes from interpretation running unchecked. Once you understand that meaning is optional, you regain control. Not everything deserves a strong emotional response. Not every obstacle is a sign. Not every discomfort is a warning. Some things are simply part of movement. Friction is not failure, it is information. This perspective is freeing, but it takes practice. The mind will continue offering interpretations out of habit. Your role is not to silence it, but to choose which meanings you accept. A simple practice is this. When something triggers you, pause and ask, what meaning am I assigning right now? Then ask, is this the only meaning available? That question alone weakens emotional grip. You open the door to alternatives, and alternatives create relief. Over time, you stop reacting to life as if everything is happening for or against you. You begin to see events as neutral inputs, raw data. From there, you decide the response that serves you best. This is emotional maturity. You stop being controlled by impressions. You stop carrying unnecessary weight. You stop turning moments into burdens. And slowly, life feels more manageable. Not because it is simpler, but because you are clearer. You control meaning, not events. And when meaning is mastered, emotional freedom follows. Chapter 3. Life Rewards. Responsibility, not complaints. There is a quiet shift that changes the direction of life. It happens the moment someone stops asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and starts asking, "What is my responsibility here?" Most people never make this shift. They spend years explaining their situation instead of improving it. They complain about circumstances, people, timing, luck, or the past. And while those complaints may feel justified, they slowly drain power from the only place it ever existed. Life does not respond to complaints. It responds to responsibility. This law can feel uncomfortable at first because it removes a familiar escape. Complaining gives temporary relief. It creates a sense of being understood. It offers permission to stay where you are. Responsibility does the opposite. It demands action. It asks you to stand up internally, even when the situation is unfair. But unfairness has never stopped reality from moving forward. When you complain, you place yourself below the problem. You position life as something that happens to you. When you take responsibility, you place yourself inside the solution. You reclaim agency. Even if the situation was not your fault, it is still your responsibility to deal with it. This distinction is where maturity begins. Responsibility does not mean blame. Blame looks backward. Responsibility looks forward. Blame says, "This shouldn't have happened." Responsibility says, "This happened. Now what?" One keeps you stuck. The other moves you. Many people confuse responsibility with harsh self-judgment. They think taking responsibility means attacking themselves for every mistake. In reality, self-attack is just another form of avoidance. True responsibility is calm. It is clear. It is practical. It asks honest questions. What can I control right now? What action is available to me? What am I avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? Life becomes easier when these questions replace complaints. Complaining feels like release. but it quietly reinforces helplessness. Every time you explain why something can't be changed, you train your mind to stop looking for options. Over time, this becomes an identity. Someone who is always unlucky. Someone who is always misunderstood. Someone who is always behind. Responsibility dissolves these identities. When you take ownership, even in small ways, your relationship with life shifts. You stop waiting to be rescued. You stop expecting circumstances to adjust to your emotions. You begin adjusting your actions to reality. That alignment reduces friction. Consider two people facing the same obstacle. One complains about how unfair it is. The other accepts it and adapts. Months later, their lives look completely different. Not because one had better conditions, but because one chose responsibility while the other chose explanation. Life rewards the second person quietly, but consistently. Responsibility sharpens focus. Instead of scanning for who is at fault, your attention moves toward what works. You become less emotional and more strategic. Problems stop feeling personal and start feeling solvable. This does not mean you never feel frustration. It means frustration does not lead the conversation. You acknowledge it, then move forward anyway. There is a deep sense of relief that comes with responsibility. When you stop expecting life to be fair, you stop feeling betrayed by it. When you stop expecting others to change, you stop feeling disappointed. Your energy returns to you. This is why responsibility feels heavy at first and freeing later. In the beginning, it removes excuses. That feels threatening, but over time, it removes resentment, bitterness, and helplessness. Those are far heavier burdens. Responsibility also builds self-respect. Each time you choose action over complaint, you reinforce trust in yourself. You prove that you can handle discomfort without collapsing into blame. That trust becomes confidence. Quiet, grounded confidence. People who live this way are often misunderstood. They are not loud. They do not explain themselves much. They do not dramatize obstacles. They simply do what needs to be done. Over time, their results speak. Life notices consistency more than intensity. You do not need to overhaul your entire life to apply this law. Start small. Notice the moments when you complain internally. The traffic, the delay, the message that wasn't returned, the progress that feels slow. In those moments, ask yourself what responsibility looks like here. Sometimes it is action. Sometimes it is patience. Sometimes it is letting go. Responsibility is not always about doing more. Sometimes it is about doing less, but doing it deliberately. When responsibility becomes your default, life feels less chaotic. Not because problems disappear, but because you stop amplifying them. You meet reality as it is, with a steady posture. That steadiness changes outcomes over time. This law does not promise ease without effort. It promises clarity without confusion. When you stop complaining, you stop negotiating with reality. You stop waiting for permission. You step into alignment with how life actually works. And slowly, almost unnoticed, things begin to move. Life rewards responsibility, always has, always will. Chapter 4. Discomfort is the price of growth. There is a misunderstanding that keeps many people trapped in the same patterns for years. They believe that a good life should feel comfortable, that progress should feel smooth, that growth should feel natural. But life operates by a different rule. Growth always demands discomfort first. The moments that change you most are rarely pleasant. They stretch you, they expose weakness, they force you to confront limits you didn't know you had. And because discomfort feels threatening, most people instinctively avoid it. They choose what feels familiar instead of what helps them evolve. This avoidance feels safe in the short term, but it makes life harder in the long run. Discomfort is not punishment, it is information. Every signal of discomfort is pointing to an edge. an edge where something can be learned, strengthened, or refined. When you move toward that edge instead of away from it, you expand. When you retreat, the edge stays exactly where it is, waiting. This is why people feel stuck even when they are busy. They are active, but they are not stretching. They are moving, but not forward. Life becomes easier only after you pay the price of discomfort. This law works everywhere. Physical strength grows through resistance. Mental resilience grows through challenge. Emotional stability grows through facing difficult feelings instead of escaping them. There is no exception. The path always includes friction. Yet the mind tries to negotiate. It searches for shortcuts. It tells itself that tomorrow will be a better time, that conditions need to be perfect first. That motivation should come before effort. These thoughts sound reasonable, but they are avoidance in disguise. The truth is simple. You don't wait until discomfort disappears. You move while it's there. Discipline exists for this reason, not as punishment, but as a bridge. It carries you through discomfort when motivation fades. It keeps you aligned with long-term outcomes instead of short-term relief. Many people misunderstand discipline as restriction. They see it as limitation, pressure, or control. In reality, discipline is freedom delayed. It is choosing a small, intentional discomfort now to avoid a much heavier one later. Avoiding discomfort today creates regret tomorrow. Facing discomfort today creates strength tomorrow. This is the trade most people never consciously make. They choose ease now and pay with anxiety later. They choose comfort now and pay with stagnation later. Over time, these costs accumulate. Life feels heavier not because it is harsher, but because avoided discomfort compounds. Discomfort also reveals truth. When you are uncomfortable, you see your habits clearly. You notice excuses. You become aware of where you quit early. You learn what you value enough to endure difficulty for. Comfort hides these insights. Discomfort exposes them. This is why growth feels confronting. It removes illusions. You begin to see that many limits were self-imposed, that fear exaggerated risk, that you were capable of more than you assumed. But you only see this after stepping into resistance, not before. The body understands this intuitively. Muscles grow by tearing and rebuilding. The mind resists this logic emotionally, even though it lives by it physically. The pain of effort feels threatening, but it is temporary. The pain of avoidance is quieter, but longer lasting. This law explains why people who avoid discomfort often feel restless. Even when nothing is wrong, something feels missing. That feeling is unused capacity, energy without direction, potential without expression. Discomfort gives that energy a purpose. It channels effort into something constructive. It provides resistance that sharpens focus. When you choose discomfort intentionally, it stops being chaotic. It becomes structured, purposeful, manageable. This is why people who train discipline appear calm under pressure. They have practiced discomfort in controlled ways. They have taught their nervous system that discomfort does not equal danger. It equals growth. Over time, discomfort loses its power to intimidate. You still feel it, but it no longer controls your decisions. This shift changes everything. Instead of asking, "How can I avoid this?" you ask, "What is this developing in me?" That question reframes struggle. It turns obstacles into tools. It replaces fear with curiosity. You stop running from effort. You begin to respect it. Discomfort also teaches patience. Growth rarely happens instantly. Progress is often invisible at first. This frustrates those who expect immediate reward. But those who accept delayed results build endurance. They trust the process because they understand the law behind it. Nothing meaningful grows without time under tension. This applies to relationships, skills, character, and purpose. Anything shallow can be obtained quickly. Anything deep requires staying present through discomfort. When you accept this law, life becomes simpler. Not easier, but simpler. You stop searching for the painless path. You stop feeling betrayed by difficulty. You understand that discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is working. You begin choosing challenges deliberately. You stretch slightly beyond what feels comfortable, then recover. Again and again. This rhythm builds confidence that does not rely on circumstances. Confidence born from comfort is fragile. Confidence born from discomfort is stable. As this confidence grows, fear loses its authority. You still feel hesitation, but it no longer stops you. You act despite it. So and each time you do, the weight of life feels lighter. Not because the challenges disappear, but because you are no longer avoiding them. Discomfort is the price of growth. Once you stop trying to avoid the price, growth becomes inevitable. Chapter 5. Detach from outcomes. Commit to actions. One of the greatest sources of stress in modern life comes from a simple misunderstanding. People believe peace comes from controlling outcomes. In reality, peace comes from committing to actions and releasing the rest. Outcomes are seductive. They promise certainty. They give the illusion that if you could just guarantee a result, you could finally relax. So the mind fixates on the future. It calculates. It worries me. It replays scenarios. And without realizing it, it trades presence for prediction. This constant attachment to outcomes is exhausting. You are never meant to carry the future in your head. You are meant to act in the present. Outcomes exist outside your direct control. They are influenced by timing, other people, chance, and forces you cannot see. Actions, however, are always available. They belong to you. When you confuse the two, anxiety appears. When you separate them, clarity returns. Most people suffer not because they don't try, but because they try to control what cannot be controlled. They work, but they obsess over results. They prepare, but they fear failure. They act, but they constantly check whether it is paying off yet. This mental posture creates pressure. Pressure tightens judgment. Tight judgment leads to poor decisions. Ironically, attachment to outcomes often reduces the chance of achieving them. Detachment does not mean indifference, it means precision. When you detach from outcomes, you stop emotional interference. You focus on what you can do well right now. You give your full attention to the process instead of splitting it between effort and expectation. That focus improves quality, and quality improves results naturally. This is why some people perform better under uncertainty. They are not calmer because they know the outcome. They are calmer because they are not demanding one. Life rewards those who show up consistently, not those who obsess constantly. Think about how many moments are ruined by outcome fixation. Conversations where you worry about how you're perceived. Projects where you rush because you want validation. Decisions delayed because you fear choosing wrong. In all these cases, attention is divided. You are not fully present, and presence is where effectiveness lives. Commitment to action simplifies life. Instead of asking, "Will this work?" you ask, "What is the next correct step?" Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you ask, "What is required of me now?" These questions ground you. They bring you back to reality. When you release outcomes, effort becomes lighter. You still care, but you are not attached. You move with intention instead of tension. This state is not passive, it is deeply engaged. But the engagement is clean. Clean effort feels different. It is calm, focused, and sustainable. This law is visible everywhere. Athletes who perform best are absorbed in execution, not scoreboards. Artists who create their best work lose track of reception. Leaders who make strong decisions focus on principles, not approval. In each case, detachment sharpens performance. Attachment clouds it. The mind resists this idea because it equates detachment with loss. It fears that letting go means trying less. In reality, detachment often leads to greater consistency. And when emotional stakes drop, endurance rises. You stop burning out. You stop swinging between overexertion and avoidance. You begin showing up steadily. This steadiness compounds. Small actions done regularly outweigh intense efforts done sporadically. Detachment allows you to return again and again without emotional depletion. Over time, this rhythm builds momentum that outcome chasing never sustains. There is also freedom in knowing that your worth is not tied to results. When outcomes define your value, every setback feels personal. Every delay feels like judgment. This makes life feel hostile. But when you define yourself by your actions, your integrity becomes internal, hooking peace to what you do, not what happens. You cannot fail at effort. You can only succeed or learn. This perspective changes how you experience uncertainty. Instead of fearing it, you work within it. You stop waiting for guarantees and start building capacity. Capacity to adapt, capacity to persist, capacity to remain calm when things are unclear. This is real strength. Detachment also sharpens decision-making. When you are emotionally attached to outcomes, you overthink, you hesitate, you seek perfect information. When you detach, decisions become simpler. You choose based on values and logic, not fear. You act, you observe, you adjust. This cycle is how progress actually happens. Chapter 6. Most pain comes from expectation. There is a hidden source of suffering that most people never question. It operates quietly in the background of everyday life, and the more invisible it is, the more power it has. That source is expectation. Expectations feel reasonable. You expect people to understand you. You expect effort to be rewarded. You expect life to make sense if you do the right things. None of these expectations seem extreme, yet when they go unmet, frustration appears. Disappointment follows. Resentment builds. Pain often begins not with what happens, but with what you expected to happen instead. Expectation creates a mental contract with reality, and reality never signed it. When you expect life to behave a certain way, you are preloading emotion into the future. You are deciding in advance how you will feel. So if the outcome matches your expectation, you feel relief. If it doesn't, you feel wronged. This emotional dependency makes your inner state fragile. The more expectations you carry, the easier it is for life to disappoint you. Expectations are not the same as goals. Goals guide action. Expectations demand outcomes. A goal says, "I will try." An expectation says, "This must happen." One is flexible, the other is rigid. Rigidity is where suffering hides. Most people expect more than they realize. They expect people to behave logically. They expect effort to guarantee results. They expect fairness from a world that never promised it. When these expectations collide with reality, the emotional cost feels personal. But it isn't. It's structural. Life does not operate on fairness. It operates on cause and effect, probability, timing, and complexity. Expecting fairness from such a system is like expecting the weather to care about your plans. The storm is not against you, it simply is. This understanding does not make you cold. It makes you resilient. When you release expectations, you don't lose hope. You gain clarity. You stop demanding certainty from an uncertain world. You stop expecting people to act according to your inner logic. You meet reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. This shift immediately reduces emotional friction. Many people confuse lowering expectations with settling, but they are not the same. Settling is giving up on effort. Releasing expectations is giving up on entitlement. You can work hard, care deeply, and still accept that outcomes are not guaranteed. That acceptance changes how setbacks feel. Without expectation, a setback is information. With expectation, it feels like betrayal. This is why expectations create resentment. When you expect someone to behave a certain way and they don't, you feel wronged. But often, they never agreed to that expectation. It existed only in your mind. Yet you paid the emotional price when it failed. Releasing expectations does not mean tolerating poor behavior. It means responding from reality instead of disappointment. You see people clearly. You set boundaries when needed. You stop being shocked when they reveal who they are. Clarity replaces bitterness. Expectations also distort self-perception. When you expect yourself to always perform, always improve, always stay strong, failure feels catastrophic. You turn moments into verdicts. You judge yourself harshly for being human. This internal pressure becomes exhausting. Without expectation, effort becomes lighter. You do your best without demanding perfection. You learn without self-punishment. Progress becomes sustainable. This does not make you less ambitious. It makes ambition cleaner. Clean ambition focuses on action and adaptation. It allows mistakes without identity damage. It recognizes that growth is nonlinear. With this mindset, obstacles feel less personal and more navigational. Expectations collapse nuance. They turn complex processes into simple demands. They ignore timing. They ignore variables. They ignore uncertainty. When reality inevitably deviates, emotional stability collapses with it. Releasing expectations restores balance. You stop asking, "Why didn't this work the way I imagined?" You start asking, "What is actually happening? And how do I respond?" This question keeps you grounded. Life becomes easier, not because outcomes improve instantly, but because your emotional response becomes proportionate. You stop overreacting. You stop catastrophizing. You stop turning delays into disasters. This emotional regulation has a compounding effect. When you are calmer, you make better decisions. Better decisions improve results over time. Ironically, releasing expectations often leads to better outcomes than clinging to them. Because tension interferes with judgment, expectation also robs you of presence. When you are focused on what should happen, you miss what is happening. You overlook small wins. You ignore progress. You rush moments that deserve attention. Life passes, but you're busy waiting for it to align with your script. Letting go of expectation brings you back to the present. You still plan, you still act, but you no longer attach your peace to future conditions. Peace becomes internal instead of conditional. That alone makes life feel more manageable. This is not detachment from life. It is engagement without illusion. When expectations drop, gratitude rises naturally. You appreciate what works instead of resenting what doesn't. You notice what's available instead of obsessing over what's missing. This shift changes your emotional baseline. Life stops feeling like a constant negotiation. Releasing expectations does not mean you stop caring. It means you care without demanding control. You invest effort, not entitlement. You commit to growth, not guarantees. This is a quieter way of living, but it is far more stable. Most pain comes from expectation, and when expectation loosens its grip, peace moves in. Chapter 7. Silence, Patience, and Time. Always win. There is a quiet advantage that almost no one is willing to practice. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel urgent. And because of that, it is constantly underestimated. That advantage is patience. In a world addicted to speed, patience looks like weakness. Silence looks like hesitation. Stillness looks like inaction. But life does not reward the loudest or the fastest. It rewards the most consistent, and consistency is built on patience, not intensity. Most people rush because they are uncomfortable with uncertainty. They want answers now, results now, validation now. When life moves slower than their expectations, anxiety fills the gap. They speak too quickly. They react too early. They force decisions that are not ready to be made. This urgency feels productive, but it quietly erodes judgment. Silence is not absence. It is restraint. When you choose silence, you choose not to leak energy. You stop explaining yourself unnecessarily. You stop reacting to every stimulus. You give events time to reveal their shape before responding. This delay is not passive. It is strategic. Silence allows clarity to catch up with emotion. Many conflicts escalate simply because someone spoke too soon. Many mistakes happen because action outran understanding. Silence interrupts that chain. It creates space between impulse and behavior, and in that space, wisdom appears. Patience works the same way, but over longer periods. Life unfolds through accumulation. Skills compound. Trust compounds. Strength compounds. But compounding requires time under consistent effort. This is why impatient people feel stuck. They reset too often. They quit before results can surface. They abandon paths just as momentum begins. Time is always working. The question is whether it is working for you or against you. Those who respect time align their actions with long horizons. They do not panic at slow starts. They understand that early stages are quiet. Foundations are invisible. Progress often looks like nothing before it looks like something. Impatience blinds you to this process. When you rush, you look for immediate signals. If they are not there, you assume failure. But many of the most meaningful outcomes provide no early reassurance. They require faith in systems rather than excitement from feedback. Patience is the ability to remain steady without evidence. This steadiness separates those who endure from those who burn out. Impatient effort is explosive but brief. Patient effort is modest but relentless. Over time, the second always overtakes the first. Silence also protects momentum. When you broadcast every plan, you invite interference. Opinions dilute focus. External reactions pull you off course. Silence allows you to move without distraction. It keeps your energy internal, where it belongs. You don't need approval to proceed. You need alignment. Those who move quietly conserve strength. They let results speak. They understand that explanation is often a substitute for progress. While others talk, they build. While others react, they observe. This posture creates an unfair advantage. Patience also reshapes your relationship with frustration. Instead of interpreting delays as obstacles, you see them as part of timing. Not everything can be rushed. Some things require readiness. Forcing them early only creates instability later. This is true in growth, relationships, and purpose. Trying to speed up development often produces shallow outcomes. Depth requires duration. Understanding requires repetition. Maturity requires lived experience. These cannot be compressed without cost. Those who accept this stop fighting time. They work with it. Time rewards those who show up when no one is watching. It favors routines over bursts. It favors resilience over motivation. Motivation is emotional. Time responds to behavior. Silence, patience, and time form a powerful combination. Silence keeps you focused. Patience keeps you consistent. Time does the rest. This combination is uncomfortable at first because it removes drama. There is no rush, no constant stimulation, just steady movement. For minds trained on urgency, this feels wrong. But wrong does not mean ineffective. In fact, this is how most lasting success is built. Look closely at anyone who seems grounded, capable, and unshaken. You will rarely find chaos in their process. They move deliberately. They wait when needed. They do not rush to prove themselves. They let time do the convincing. They are not inactive, they are selective. Patience does not mean waiting without action. It means acting without panic. It means trusting that effort applied consistently will eventually surface. It means staying calm when others rush and staying focused when others quit. Silence also strengthens emotional control. When you do not react immediately, emotions pass through without hijacking behavior. You stop saying things you later regret. You stop committing to paths driven by temporary feelings. This self-restraint compounds into authority. People trust those who are not reactive. They listen to those who speak less but say more. They respect those who are not desperate for attention. Over time, silence becomes presence. The irony is that what looks slow from the outside is often efficient on the inside. When decisions are made calmly and actions are repeated patiently, fewer corrections are needed. Less energy is wasted. Progress becomes smoother. Life begins to feel less chaotic. You stop trying to outrun uncertainty. You stop forcing clarity before it exists. You let understanding mature. This is not surrender. It is mastery. Silence, patience, and time always win because they align with how reality actually works. Reality unfolds gradually. Those who move at its pace endure. Those who fight it exhaust themselves. When you adopt this law, urgency fades. Pressure softens. You still move forward, but without tension. And in that state, life becomes quieter, steadier, and far more manageable. In the end, time rewards those who respect it, and silence protects those who are willing to wait. Chapter 8. When you align with the law, life stops fighting. There is a moment when resistance fades and something steadier takes its place. Not because life suddenly becomes gentle, but because you stop moving against it. Most struggle is not caused by circumstances. It is caused by misalignment, by pushing where patience is required, by demanding control where acceptance is needed, by rushing outcomes instead of committing to process. When your inner posture clashes with how life actually works, friction is inevitable. Alignment removes that friction. Alignment does not mean passivity. It means cooperation with reality. You see clearly. You respond intentionally. You stop forcing life to match your expectations and begin shaping your actions to fit the conditions in front of you. This is when life feels lighter, yet you are still challenged. You still face uncertainty. But the constant internal battle quiets. The mind no longer treats every obstacle as an enemy. It sees patterns, it understands timing, it adapts. When you align with the law of life, effort becomes cleaner. You accept what is without surrendering agency. You control meaning instead of reacting emotionally. You choose responsibility over complaint. You embrace discomfort as development. You commit to actions without clinging to outcomes. You release expectations that poison peace. You respect silence, patience, and time. These principles are not isolated. They reinforce each other. Together, they form a way of living that reduces unnecessary suffering. Alignment begins internally. When your inner world is aligned, the outer world stops feeling hostile. You stop interpreting difficulty as punishment. You stop seeing delays as rejection. You stop taking every challenge personally. This mental shift changes how you experience life moment to moment. You move through problems instead of colliding with them. This does not mean things always work out the way you want. It means you are no longer emotionally destabilized when they don't. You remain grounded. You stay present. You continue acting from clarity instead of fear. This is quiet strength. People often imagine alignment as harmony without effort. In truth, alignment requires discipline. It asks you to let go of illusions, to release entitlement, to drop the need for constant reassurance. But once you do, effort becomes more effective. You stop wasting energy. Energy once spent on frustration becomes available for progress. Energy once trapped in rumination becomes focus. Energy once drained by resentment becomes resilience. This reallocation changes outcomes over time. Life stops feeling like a constant negotiation. You no longer argue with reality in your head. You no longer replay moments trying to control the past. You no longer project fears into futures you haven't reached. You deal with what is as it is, with a steady posture. This steadiness compounds. When you are calm, you see options others miss. When you are patient, you last longer than those who rush. When you are disciplined, you move forward even without motivation. Over time, these qualities create momentum that feels almost effortless. Effortless, not because effort is absent, but because resistance is. Alignment also brings humility. You stop seeing yourself as the center of every outcome. You recognize that life is complex, that not everything is within your control. This humility does not shrink you, it stabilizes you. You stop demanding certainty from an uncertain world. In this state, peace becomes less conditional. You are no longer waiting for circumstances to improve before feeling grounded. Groundedness becomes internal. It travels with you. This is what real ease feels like. Not excitement, not constant happiness, but a sense of balance that holds even when things are unclear. When you align with life's laws, you also align with yourself. You stop betraying your values for short-term comfort. You stop avoiding growth because it feels uncomfortable. You stop compromising integrity to escape pressure. Integrity creates inner cohesion, and cohesion creates calm. Life responds differently to those who are aligned. Not magically, but practically. They make better decisions, they maintain consistency, they recover faster from setbacks. These advantages accumulate quietly. From the outside, it may look like luck. From the inside, it feels like clarity. Alignment does not make you immune to pain, but it prevents pain from becoming suffering. Pain passes. Suffering lingers only when resisted, inflated, or personalized. When you stop fighting life, life stops fighting back. You still work, you still strive, you still grow. But the effort feels purposeful instead of frantic. You're no longer chasing relief. You're building stability. This is the ultimate benefit of understanding the law of life. Not control over events, but mastery over response. Not dominance over circumstances, but harmony with reality. Harmony does not mean softness, it means precision. Knowing when to act, knowing when to wait, knowing when to accept, knowing when to push. That discernment is wisdom. As you move forward, remember this. Life is not asking you to win every battle, it is asking you to stop creating unnecessary ones. When you align your inner posture with how life actually works, you conserve strength. And conserved strength changes everything. Life doesn't get easier because it gives you less to carry. It gets easier because you stop carrying what was never yours. That is alignment, and that is where ease begins. If there is one thing to remember from this audiobook, it is this. Life was never meant to be fought the way most people fight it. Not with constant resistance. Not with endless frustration, not with the belief that peace only arrives when everything finally goes your way. Life gets easier when you stop demanding it to be different and start aligning yourself with how it actually works. You've explored laws that are simple, but not easy. Acceptance instead of resistance, meaning instead of reaction, responsibility instead of complaint, discomfort instead of avoidance. Action instead of outcome obsession, release of expectation, respect for silence, patience, and time. These are not motivational ideas. They are structural truths. They describe how reality responds, whether you acknowledge them or not. The moment you align with them, friction decreases. That does not mean your life will suddenly become smooth. Challenges will still appear. Uncertainty will still exist. Discomfort will still visit. But the weight you feel will be different. Lighter, more manageable, because you will no longer be carrying what does not belong to you. You will stop arguing with facts. You will stop negotiating with the past. You will stop demanding guarantees from the future. Instead, you will stand where power actually lives. In the present moment, in your response, in your actions. This alignment creates a quiet confidence, not the kind that needs to prove itself, not the kind that demands recognition, but the kind that knows it can handle whatever comes next. That confidence does not come from control. It comes from trust in your ability to adapt. When you accept reality, you see clearly. When you control meaning, emotions stabilize. When you take responsibility, momentum returns. When you embrace discomfort, growth becomes inevitable. When you detach from outcomes, effort becomes calm. When you release expectations, peace expands. When you respect time, progress compounds. Each of these shifts removes unnecessary struggle. Together, they create a life that feels grounded instead of reactive. You don't need to change everything at once. In fact, trying to do so would contradict everything you've just learned. Alignment is built through small, consistent choices, through pauses before reactions, through choosing responsibility in moments when complaint feels easier, through staying present when your mind wants to escape into worry or fantasy. Start where you are. Notice where you resist reality today. Notice what expectations are quietly draining you. Notice where impatience is forcing decisions too early. These observations are not judgments. They are entry points. Life does not require perfection. It responds to direction. As you practice alignment, you may notice something unexpected. The world does not become kinder overnight, but you become steadier, less shaken, less rushed, less emotionally taxed. And that steadiness changes how others experience you. It changes how opportunities appear. It changes how setbacks land. Not because you are controlling life, but because you are no longer fighting it. This is the deeper freedom most people search for without realizing it. Freedom from internal chaos. Freedom from emotional overreaction. Freedom from carrying unnecessary weight. It does not come from escaping difficulty. It comes from meeting difficulty with clarity. Life gets easier when you do less of what drains you and more of what aligns you. As you move forward, return to these principles whenever life feels heavy again. That heaviness is not failure. It is a signal, a reminder that something is out of alignment, and alignment is always available in the next choice you make. Thank you for taking this time to reflect, to slow down, and to listen. If this audiobook helped you see life differently, even slightly, consider sharing it with someone you care about. Someone who may be carrying more than they need to. Someone who could benefit from understanding these laws and beginning to improve their life in a calmer, more grounded way. Sometimes, the right idea shared at the right moment can change everything.